you're still living in Norwich today?
Just outside
Just
of
outside.
Uncasville.
Uncasville, great, yep, great. And again, we're here to talk about the conflict you served in, which was in the war in Vietnam, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. And what was your branch of service?
Army, Special Forces, 101st Airborne Rangers, LURPS, they call us.
Right, and what was your highest rank?
I got out as an E5, Specialist E5, but while I was in Vietnam, I was acting staff sergeant because I was a platoon sergeant, and you had to be a staff sergeant in order to lead a platoon.
Right. And generally, what were some of the locations, and I know there's quite a few when you were over there that you served. Again, this is for bookkeeping purposes.
Right.
Yeah.
The 101st was all over Vietnam. Pleiku, Kon Tum, Phan Thiet, Phan Rang was our base camp. Duc Pho was our famous one where we captured or liberated a concentration camp. Phu Bai, Phan Thiet, Bo Lac. There's numerous things. And the reason I say this is the 101st were known as the nomads of Vietnam because they were all over the country. They didn't hold one area so much. They had a base camp only as Phan Rang, but we were all over the area. Wherever there was combat, this is where we went.
Right. Sounds like just pretty much the whole countryside.
Well, it's a middle.
Yeah.
We didn't go too south or too north, although we did get close to the DMZ.
Got it. Okay, so if we could sort of start at the beginning, when
Sure.
how you found your way into military service,
Okay.
in terms of just how far you went in school, and I know you actually have kind of a special story to talk about your twin brother, so maybe you can just share all that with us.
Yeah, my identical twin brother. We were born and raised in a military family. My father was in World War II. He was in the Seabees during World War II, and when the war ended, he got out, went into the Army, and then went into the Army Reserve and became a W-4 warrant officer. So, and then he was too old to go to Vietnam, although he did serve in Korea too during that time. And he was in for 40 years.
Wow.
So we were raised as military, so we knew what we were going to do as we got older if we didn't go to college. And we found after we graduated from the Military Academy, we found that our best bet was to get a trade in the military. So we volunteered to go into the military in 1964 for the Signal Corps, which is we went into Dial Central Repair School, and we were going to be working with phones and communications. So, but as we were growing up, we learned everything from the military because of my father. All the rules, regulations, he was very strict, but very fair. We played all the sports at NFA and everything, so we played football, baseball, basketball, and track. So after graduating, we enlisted into the Army, and that was in the '64. And we went to Foreman. You want me to just keep on?
No, so the recruiter center was right here.
Right here at the post office in
Yeah.
Norwich,
Yeah.
which was great then because you had all the military guys, the Marines, Navy, and the Army there, and the Air Force.
Yeah. And there wasn't much question it was going to be the Army.
Yes,
Yeah.
my father said the Army was the best thing for us because we're very physical and athletic, so we could make our way through the Army a lot easier. And rank, I thought, was easier in the Army. The Navy, when you go in the Navy, my father said that to get a stripe or get a promotion, you go against the whole Navy. Where in the Army, if you're at a fort or a camp, you only go against the guys that are right there. So it was easier to get rank if you were good. And so when we went into the military, went to Fort Dix for basic training in AIT.
So your twin brother was with you right at boot camp.
That's the thing. We've never been separated. And for some reason, we never went in as the buddy system. They had a buddy system where you could stay with your buddy, but that was only through boot camp. After boot camp, you were separated. But with my brother and I, because we liked the same thing, and for some reason they kept us together, which I'm thankful because I probably could have never made it through by myself because all the things we went through. Because when we got through all that, went to boot camp together, went to AIT together.
What's AIT?
Advanced Infantry Training. And then we were sent to, from Fort Dix, we were sent to Fort Monmouth, New Jersey. Went to signal school there and found out that it wasn't what we really liked. It was more technical, and we wanted more physical combat stuff. So we saw some airborne guys, and that's when we decided we were sent to Fort Benning, Georgia, to go airborne. And then we saw the Rangers, and we wanted to be a Ranger. So if my brother and I weren't together, you have to have somebody strong enough, because you're going to fail at some time in your life or your training, and you get down on yourself. I had my brother with me, so every time I got down, he boosted me up. Every time he got down, I boosted him up. And guys didn't realize that as a team, you have to pick out somebody that really you relate to, because that will make you get through the training you're going to go through, because it was very strict training. Once you went airborne, that was voluntary. Everybody doesn't get that. You have to volunteer for it. After you graduate, get through airborne school, you do your 5 jumps, and then you go to another unit. We were lucky, we went to the Ranger unit, became Rangers, made it through, and I'll tell you, there's sometimes I thought I'd never make it. If it wasn't for my brother, he helped me, I helped him. But a lot of guys failed because they didn't have a buddy to push them. It's like a coach, you know, you have to have a coach to push you. So we stayed together, and then Vietnam was getting pretty heavy then, and people were being sent over there left and right, but they were going right out of boot camp in AIT, which is Advanced Infantry Training. They had no jungle warfare training or whatever. So when we saw that, we said, okay, after Ranger School, he says, okay, let's go Special Forces. My brother called me an idiot because it was meant to be, we're going to be a career soldier. So going through Special Forces training, it was all jungle warfare training.
And where did they do that?
Right at Fort Bragg, I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah.
We went from Fort Benning to Fort Bragg.
Yeah.
Went through the Special Forces training. You had to qualify to get in there. And there was so many things that you had to do, and, like 100 push-ups, sit-ups. It was a time thing, the obstacle courses, the recon, going out into the jungle with just a compass and a knife. We landed in, we went into the Everglades for jungle warfare training there. Then we were sent to Panama for more jungle warfare training. So Special Forces were really getting into jungle warfare. So the John F. Kennedy Special Warfare Center was at Fort Bragg, and that really inspired us because he went through the training session and he couldn't believe some of the things that we, the Special Forces guys, were doing. One of the things they showed us, it was a movie that stuck in my head, and still to this day. And of course, John F. Kennedy, being our president, of course, was assassinated when we were in high school. We dedicated a yearbook for him. But he went through the center, and he asked the sergeant in Special Forces, he says, "You've got no weapon. There's a bunch of snakes in the pit. How are you going to kill the snake and survive?" And the sergeant, and they've got a video of this. Sergeant reached in, grabbed the snake, bit his head off, skinned it with his teeth, and ate it right in front of him. And President Kennedy just went, "Oh my God," he almost started throwing up because he couldn't believe he did it. And actually, and that guy, that sergeant, was an E6, became an E7 like that, because the Kennedy says, "You got to promote that guy." So that stuck in our throats, in our minds. So we knew what we had to go through. So we went through all that together, and that's the time I was afraid I was never going to get sent to Vietnam, because we had so much training to do. And at home, you know, back then, people weren't treating the service guys very well, and they called us a lot of things. kind of bothered me. And my father would my father was in the state highway department, and he was a chief engineer for the state highway, and he was up there quite a bit. And they used to ask him, why aren't your sons going to Vietnam? My son went to boot camp and then AIT, and he was sent right over to Vietnam. How come your boys aren't going? My father told him, he says, they're going through all the jungle warfare training that they can get before they're going to go to Vietnam. Well, I kind of felt bad that here we aren't going and everybody else is going. And I thought Vietnam was going to end pretty soon, because we were talking like we could kill and, take anybody. So I volunteered, and my brother was going, he was engaged to a girl, high school sweetheart. So he did, I volunteered, and you can't send
siblings to get at the same time.
Yeah. So, excuse me.
That's all right. Yep. Take the time. No rush here.
Well, I'm all right.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. But we were separated, and that kind of bothered me. But I said that at least one of us is going to get over there. So I volunteered, and I was sent to the 101st.
Yeah. So this is 64 still? 65?
Oh no, this is 66.
66.
66,
Okay. Yeah.
because we all the time going through training
Right.
and everything. And then I got to, I was first sent to the 101st. That's where I had to go first. And then they put me in the 801st Maintenance Battalion because they had no spot for me in Special Forces. I mean, in the 101st. So they said that...
So you were over in Vietnam at this point? Or
no,
you're
still
in the
stateside. Yeah. I went to, thank you.
Yeah.
I went to Fort Campbell, Kentucky. I hope I'm not talking too fast.
No,
but,
no, this is fine.
Went to Fort Campbell, Kentucky, and I went to the 801st Maintenance Signal Battalion. And they said, we got nothing here for you. We're going to put you with the infantry. And we're starting up a new unit. And the 101st was going into air assault. We're still airborne, but they were going to go into air assault, which means all helicopters and like the 1st Cav and the 7th Cav. And I could care less as long as I was in a unit that was going to go to Vietnam. So we started training guys, and myself went through LRP training, which is Long Range Reconnaissance Patrol. It's LRRP, and I have it on my hat here. But once you go through all that training, then I went to Vietnam. I was sent to Fort Lewis, Washington, and then flew over to Vietnam, but we landed in Tokyo, Japan first, and then to Okinawa, and then from Okinawa we went to Cam Bay, and that was the landing.
So what was that like when you landed there? Was that just a huge military base?
Yes, I was kind of surprised. Cam Bay, by the time I got there, and it was early. I know we've been there on and off with the Special Forces since '57. They were there in 1957, but I thought it was going to be a real great place. And it was funny because when we landed, we looked out, and there's grass growing through the air track, the landing zone and everything. And I said, "What the heck is going on?" And then the heat was just unbearable. I thought the Everglades and Florida were bad, and Panama jungle was bad, but the heat there was just different. And we were just sweating like crazy because we had our khakis on, which were not fatigues, it was our uniforms, and we were sweating like crazy. So we got into our unit, and it was surprising when I looked over. Here's the Army, and we're all in tents. Over here was the Air Force. Had plywood barracks with air conditioners sticking out the windows. And I said, I think I'm in the wrong outfit here. What the heck is going on here? And then I looked over and I see Marines, and they're in the tents also. And I'm saying, okay, that's typical the way the services are running. So that's when I realized, okay, I'm in some stuff here. So they said, okay, we're gonna get you orientated, situated, and then we're gonna send you to Fan Rang, which was the 101st Airborne Rangers unit, base camp.
Right.
So they took some of us, put us in one unit, and we flew down to Cameron, Fan Rang then. And Fan Rang was worse than Cameron. It was straw huts, mud huts, and tents. And I says, oh boy, I hope, and this is the base camp, they call it. I said, okay. So we got orientated there, and I says, okay, what am I gonna do, And he said, well, you're a specialist E5, and we don't need a signal man. There's nothing here. We don't have telephones hanging all over the place, or central offices and stuff, and a maintenance area. We don't have anything to repair. I was a radio repairman, and I took care of the radios, field radios and stuff. And he says, well, we've already got enough of them, but we need your expertise in reconnaissance. I says, okay, and I was in small weapons in the special forces, and small weapons and demolition. So I says, okay, we're going to send you to the forward area. I looked around, I said, oh boy, we're going to another area, okay. So we went to the forward area, and it was worse off than where I was. So that's when I knew, okay, it's going to be a hell of a thing to get out of this thing alive. And guys were telling me.
So are you in the jungle now?
I'm in the jungle.
Yeah.
Well, jungle was Fan Rang was actually still jungle, but it was toward the coastline.
Right.
Like Cameron was right on the coastline. It was a beautiful place too. But anyway, went to the forward area, which was Fubai, and then went to Fan Thiet and Duck Toe and Duck Foe. We're all over the place, and we had tents with sandbags wrapped around the perimeter of our tents. And of course, we had concertina wire around the perimeter of forward observation point. So we would go out once I got orientated into the unit, and then I got my platoon. And the platoons averaged, especially when you went out on patrol, anywhere from 6, 7 guys to maybe 12 or 15 guys. Sometimes you get about 20, but we had a general that, and Lieutenant McGuisek was a commanding officer. He was a battlefield commissioned officer. He went from a sergeant E6 to a first lieutenant. And he was wearing the red beret at the time. And it was unauthorized at the time, but he wore it anyway, and nobody was going to tell him anything different. So he made us realize what was going to go on when we went up to the jungle. So you go out there maybe 3 days, maybe a week, maybe 2 weeks, and you lived off the land. You only took the ammunition that you needed. I was a walking bomb. I had an M79 grenade launcher. I had my M16. I had a Colt 45, and I had my survival knife. And I must have had about 4 or 5 bandoliers of clips for my M16. And I had another bandolier for the M79 grenade launcher, which was like a sort of little shotgun.
How much did all that weigh?
Oh, we carried anywhere from 80 to 100 pounds. And we got used to it when we jumped out of planes, because if you see the pictures I've got here, we're fully loaded. We carry our weapon, a rucksack in the back. You got the parachute and everything else in the reserve. And you'll look at the guy, and I've got a picture of a guy. You say, how the hell can he ever, pardon my French, but how can he walk through the jungle with all that stuff? But when you go on patrol, you don't take, the only thing we took that was, other than weapons and ammunition, was 4 canteens of water. Because you would drink water like crazy, and of course salt tablets, and then we had special other tablets to clean the water if you had to drink their water. But most of it's all ammunition and weapons. So they used to go, I didn't carry grenades also, but you were a walking bomb when you went out on patrol. We found that with small units, you could control the men a lot easier and with no noise. We went out on patrol with the infantry sometimes. They made so much noise you could hear them miles away. And then the other thing is we learned very quickly is you don't use perfume soap. That smell will travel miles, and you pick up that scent. We weren't supposed, no smoking. We brought no cigarettes. We couldn't use regular mosquito repellent. That was the worst thing. The mosquitoes were big enough to pick you up and carry you away. That's how bad they were. And we got pictures of some of these. The jungle was incredible. But when you went on patrol, there was no cigarettes. The only thing you carried was the water. And they came out with these new. I never had a meal at a mess hall. It was always K rations or Lurp rations. Lurp rations were the best because they were dry food in a package, sealed, and it was like paper. And all you do is you pour water in it, and you could heat it with a little fire, and you had soup. And they were the best. And they found that we could pack them in our side of our pockets, and they didn't weigh hardly anything. So depending on how long you're out there, you probably one meal a day, but you ate off the land. Whatever you caught, you ate. But we went out with small groups, so we wouldn't be detected, although every time we went out, when we get into a firefighter, we find somebody and we radio in, and before they know it, they're coming in with artillery fire, or planes are coming in with napalm and hitting them, and then we would get detected that somebody's out there, and they'd start chasing after us and everything. We've had many, we walked in a couple of ambushes and everything. But one of the best things I ever had, lifting experiences with helping the villages, the village people. They didn't want this war. They just wanted to be left alone, raise their rice paddies and their cattle and whatnot. Well, we had two operations in Vietnam, was the Molov 1 and Molov 2. And I got pictures of that where we got liberated, actually we captured a bunch of cattle that there was Viet Cong had stolen from the villages, and there must have been like 200 head all total, and we had to round them up like cowboys and drive them back into the villages, and they would come and pick out which ones they wanted. And then we liberated at Duck Pho a concentration camp, or a POW camp, if you want to call that. It was really barbaric. I got pictures of
Sure.
that
Why
too.
don't we actually take a look at something? Can you, can I move that? Hold it up.
Yeah.
Oh, these areas I was in combat. Well, one of the things I like to show too is, I don't know if you can see this. This is very important. I'm a Catholic, Roman Catholic, and every time we go out, before we go on patrol, we would have a mass. The priest would say a mass for us, and we did the host. And a lot of guys, and I make fun of this, but it's serious, where we go to mass, we go on patrol, and we get in a firefight. And some guys didn't go to mass. And it's all, we don't believe in Jesus, or we don't believe in God, or whatever. And I said, okay, someday you're going to. So we'd be out in the firefight, and they're saying, oh my God, don't let me die here. And I look at them and I says, now you ask God for help? Come on, why wouldn't you have mass? You'll be saved, you know, he's going to save me. But that was the other thing.
Yeah.
And let me see what we can get here. Here's the cattle that we captured and brought back to the Vietnamese villages. And then over here, this is where we're going on patrol, we're setting up ambushes here.
So the guys who are on these are your buddies?
These are my buddies, yeah.
Okay.
And we always brought a photographer, a guy with a camera, because pictures are 1,000 words.
Yeah.
And we used to take pictures of where the enemy was and everything, and we would be able to track where we were going out in the jungle. And these here were being mortared here. We blew up some tunnels that we captured here. We're setting up an ambush here. Now we're walking through the jungle up here and on patrol. So, I see, oh boy. Well, these babies, villagers thought the reason why Americans were so big and hairy and strong, this was back in the early part of the war, that we ate little babies. The Viet Cong would tell them this. So they would leave their children or their babies out in the street of the villages. And we'd come up and we'd pick them up, we'd try to find a family. Sure enough, we find them and tell them, you know, we're not the enemy, you know, we're here to help you. So we would make an orphanage. My cousin, Skip Contact, he was in the Seabees, and he made his unit up in Da Nang. It's actually, they call Monkey Mountain up a little bit further. They made an orphanage for all these kids that lost their families, and they would find their relatives for them and everything. So he was there at the same time I was. So, and this is what they did to us. Maybe you don't want to show that, but they tortured our guy. He was an interpreter for us, and they tortured him before they killed him. And this is the, what is it, the South Vietnam thing. They're in questioning, interrogating a Viet Cong sympathizer. Here they're guarding them. And here's the concentration camp where they, you can see the skin and bone here. And over here, I think we got another one. So here. Here's they put their feet in this thing and they keep them there. They were so, yeah. They were so malnourished and everything. It was atrocious things they were doing. But that's a couple things. I've got other things here.
So when you describe your unit as long range reconnaissance, again, you're actually on foot out there identifying targets for
what they do,
airstrikes.
we get on the helicopters and there would be several recon units going to go out in different areas. And that was one of the nicest things, and the bad things that you think about. You get on your helicopter with your 6 guys, and you hang out the door, and everybody gives a thumbs up, and you go off to your area. And you stay out there for any length of time or whatever. We come back in after you do your job and whatnot. If you got in a firefight, you come in sooner or later or whatever. But when you do come back to the forward area, your camp, helicopter will land. Nobody leaves the drop zone, the DZ. You stay there, and if you're coming in and the chopper's already down and the guys are going like this, and if you go like this, that means you lost some guys. Let's do this. Let's go.
And so when you would come back in, I mean, did you get at least a little bit of a break in terms of?
That's Vietnam wasn't all bad.
Yeah.
You come back in, you unload and everything, and I was lucky because being Special Forces and E5 and above, I got allocated a couple cases of beer a week and a couple cases of soda a week. And what we used to do is we take our beer, cut the 50-gallon drums in half, clean them out, put the beer inside, and we used to take the sodas over to the Air Force because they didn't drink like us. Give them the sodas, and they would give us blocks of ice. And we take the ice, put it on our beer, put the canvas over the barrel, half the keg, and we covered it and wet it down with water. And that would stay nice and cold because drinking warm beer out there would make you sick. It was just awful. But those are the good times when you would stay off. The more patrols you went out, the more time off you got also. So when you came back in, you had 3, 4, maybe a week off where you just relaxed. I never smoked, so the guys would light up their cigarettes and whatever because they were allocated cigarettes also. But I would have my beer and sit there and lounge around. And sometimes we could take a how close we were to the ocean or a lake or something, we could go over to take some time off there. But it was mostly in country that we were all over the place. But we did have time off. I mean, wrote letters and stuff like that.
And you were getting letters from home?
I got a couple letters from my parents. I broke up my girlfriends because I did. My biggest mistake, not my mistake, but guys make, is they have a fiance or they have a girlfriend, and they get a Dear John letter. You know what a Dear John letter is, right? That's the worst thing a guy could get when he's in combat. Because once he loses his girl or his fiance, he gets into a mode where he either wants to die or he's going to do something stupid. And I didn't want that.
Right.
If I made it out, I made it out, and I'll start a new life afterwards. But I broke away all my girlfriends. That's why my brother, I don't think, came, because he had his fake fiance.
Right. But you heard from your folks?
I heard from my folks
Yeah.
and stuff, and sometimes we would get packages. They didn't like cookies and stuff like that, but they were busted up pretty bad by the time we got them. But we
So
had some
now,
good
and
times.
when at the beginning you described your rank as sergeant?
E5, specialist E5.
Right. So was that, again, promotions that you got while you were there, or was that when you arrived you were at that rank?
No, I was at that rank when I got there.
Yeah.
E5 was at that rank.
Yeah.
I got E6 when I got there, because a specialist 5 in the Army or in any unit really, you've got to be a NCO. You can't be a specialist to lead a platoon. So they made me acting E6. So they gave me E6 stripes I got my orders there. And I was an acting E6 while I was there in Vietnam.
And when you say lead a platoon, I mean, how many guys were serving under you? When you were
I would have anywhere from, say, 6 to 20.
Wow.
And then they would split the units up, and some would go, each one had a specialty. The radio man always carried the radio, and the pictures of that radio and his weapon, he's carrying a lot of weight.
Yeah.
So 2 people we protected the most. And it wasn't the officer or the sergeant, it was the radio man and the medic. Those are the most important people we have in our squad and or our platoon. But most of the time we're small squads,
Yeah.
because we did not want to be detected by the enemy. And, but
So that's a lot of responsibility, though. I mean, you're having to think about everybody else out there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they look up to you. And
Yeah.
one good thing, and I'll say this about every combat unit, what's so great about the Americans is the sergeant in charge, or the lieutenant, he gets killed or wounded, and he's incapacitated, can't do anything. There's another guy that's ready to take his spot, because he'll be able to do it. Every person, whether you're Marine, Air Force, Navy, you're able to take charge. No matter if you lose your commanding officer or your sergeant, the next guy can step up and do just as good, because everybody knows each other's job, and that's the way we're trained. Everybody, it's like if you kill the head man in the Viet Cong people, you kill the head man, they all just fold.
Yeah.
They can't do it.
Interesting.
Where we can.
Right.
And that's what's great about and then when you look up and you see the napalm bombs coming in, you thank God that you're on the USA side, because we had the most power than anything, and I can't imagine going against us.
Right.
It's
So, again, so you described coming into Cameron Bay, and then the next location, and then the forward price. I mean,
Yep.
and then was it just, a series of patrols for the whole time from that point on?
Right.
With breaks?
Yeah, we had breaks, but yeah, it was, and that's what's good about the 101st was you never stayed too long in one spot, and the reason why is the enemy will get accustomed to what you're doing,
Right.
and before you know it, you're taken over or infiltrated. But we had infiltrations all the time, though, because today they're nice to you, tomorrow they're your enemy. And I don't know how the heck they do it in Afghanistan or in Iraq, how they do going into homes. I'd rather be in the jungle than into those
Wow.
homes, let me tell you. Because you don't know what's going on in those homes. In the jungle, you know.
Right. So in the total length of time that you were there was about a year or so?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
And did the weather ever let up at all or change, or was it just heat the whole time?
Well, it was so hot in the day, and then at night you would freeze. It was like the desert, you know. Daytime it's hot and heck. Nighttime it's you're freezing. And the only thing we kept with us was poncho liners. We never carried I see platoons going out with full rucksacks and everything. Where are you going out? Camping? You're going out to either kill or find the enemy, you know, and radio info. But some of these guys are carrying too much, and we only carried what we needed, and we lived off the land. But it was the worst time is monsoon season.
I was going to ask it. Yeah.
I could be sitting right here, and I can't see you.
Is that heavy?
It was so heavy, and then at night because the ground was so hot, what do you call it? The dew, and it would be like all fog, and before you know it, the guy's standing in front of you almost. You know, we had people walk right by us, Viet Cong, walk right by us because we're hiding, and in the jungle, in some of the pictures here, you can't even see. And we didn't. And back then, we didn't have camouflage uniforms. We had the green khakis, fatigues, excuse me, they called them. And they were the only camouflage we had. And of course, later on, they started getting camouflage stuff. But we didn't have much camouflage. But our green fatigues, with the green leaves it was so thick. It was heavy going through. And then, of course, you get some areas where it's like a pasture, but you don't want to be in there.
So, some of the stories that you mentioned, like the prison camp, obviously there's press coverage here. These are clips from
Oh, yeah.
So did you actually have like reporters along with you, or journalists? Or
we had a couple. We didn't want them because we wanted to fight the war. We didn't want to take care of them.
Right.
If they carried a gun, they were welcome. If they didn't carry a gun, then we don't need you.
Right.
We're not babysitters.
Right.
The only time that photographers were brought in, because this was after the fact, we had already captured it. We had already done a fighting. Then they came in and took their pictures for show or whatever. But once in a while, we would have them with us. But they were, a lot of them was sympathizers. They weren't, they didn't go through the military. If they were military trained, they would understand what we're going through.
Right.
And they feel that sometimes we overreacted sometimes, or acted harshly. And but we never, we go into a village, we gave them more than they gave us, because we wanted them on our side.
Right.
Some units were bad, and we weren't all good. But I'll tell you this, my unit, 101st, we treated the people with respect.
I can tell from just the kind of person you are. That's the case.
We would never hurt anybody unless they were shooting at us.
So as you got closer to the end of your time there, did you were fighting all the way to the last day, or did they kind of start to ease back a little bit in terms of your schedule?
No. We fought to the last day. I found out later, a couple of years after I had gotten out, Vietnam was still going on, they were getting them out of there sooner because of their, they get shot, they make mistakes. So I always had the attitude where my last day was going to be like my first day. I'm going to be ready at all times, and that's why we got nicknames, all kinds of names. And I laughed when they gave, they said Mad Dog Mattis.
Yeah.
That's what they called me, Mad Dog Crawford, because I took no qualms from anybody, and I didn't take anything from them. I was harsh, but I made my guys would never hurt a child or a woman or an old man unless they had a weapon. If they had a weapon, it was another story, but we didn't do some of the things that the other guys did. I know the My Lai incident was a horrible thing.
Right.
And I could tell you stories about that, but that's another issue.
Right. So, so what was the process of departure like? I mean, did you just sort of find your way back to Cameron
Right.
Bay? And
Well, they knew when your time was up because you kept a book. And I remember I had so many days left, 65 and 30 and whatnot, and I wanted to get out as soon as I could. And then they come up to you, you know, and they say, okay, you're getting short. We'll let you have the E6 strike. Stay. And, geez, that's not bad. You know, I get the E6 stripe, and maybe I get E7 before I get out of my next tour. So I was thinking about re-enlisting. But then I went on patrol, and it was a bad patrol, and we lost some guys, and I came close to losing. And I said, no. I said, they don't want this war to end. I got to get out of here. So I said, no, I think I'll get out. And when I got out, the day, my last day, or maybe a day or two, because I did get out earlier than I was supposed to. I got 2 days out before that. Whoopity.
yeah.
But when I was sent back to Fan Rang, which was our base camp, then I went to Cameron Bay and got on the plane. And best thing was, and I shouldn't say the best thing, I'm on a plane, a C-123, I think it was. It was a real awful plane. And there was about 6 of us on the plane, and we're going to Fan Rang to get out. And the plane caught, the engine caught fire. We had to land in a DZ that was not protected. So I'm saying my uncle was killed in the Second World War in Italy when he was flying a plane, and the general wanted to see where he had conquered, and the plane was shot down and he was killed. So I hope this doesn't happen to me. So when we landed, we were, thank God, you carry your weapon everywhere, and we were loaded, so we knew if anything happened, we had enough ammunition to take care of ourselves, but I couldn't wait for that plane to get going again. So they fixed the plane, and we flew back and got it out of there. But we walked out, and there's a picture here. Let's see here. Okay. Welcome to the Air Force Base there.
Yeah.
And this is the way home.
Okay.
And you can see, well, I think I'm right there. Yeah, you can barely see
Oh
me
yeah.
right there.
So that's California,
Yeah.
or is that?
No, that's in Cameron Bay.
Oh, that's okay. So
Yeah.
you're still in.
Yeah, and you can see the barracks. They got barracks now
Yeah. Yeah.
over there. But oh, here I am, right here.
Yep.
Gateway home.
Yeah.
That's where it is.
So, so then it's from there to back to Japan, and then.
Right. We went to Okinawa.
Yeah.
And from Okinawa, we flew to Fort Ord, California was first, and we couldn't. We landed there, and then they had the protesters there, and they wouldn't let us off the plane because we were ready to attack them because we were upset in what they were protesting about, you know, and just trying to do our duty, you know. So we left Fort Ord, went to Fort Lewis, Washington, and that's where we landed there, and were sent home, or wherever you wanted to go. A lot of guys didn't go home. They went other places because they were, we didn't get the debriefing that we should have gotten before we got let
So
go.
you completely discharged when you got.
Right.
Yep.
I got my papers,
Yeah.
and Fort Lewis was my last fort. And my father wanted me, when I went home, they picked me up at the airport, and we landed right here, Groton Airport. So that's when we still had planes coming in there.
Right.
And it was nice coming home. And, there was no protesters there or anything, so it was no problem. But we were told, you know, don't wear a uniform anywhere because of what was going on and everything.
So, and you talked about they didn't really give you much of a debriefing. So, I mean, when you landed at Groton, I mean, you were pretty much you and your family, you know, was your safety net.
That was my safety net.
Yeah.
Yeah. And my father was, he's a hard man.
Yeah.
And he says, okay, you're a man now. Now you got to act like a gentleman and be courtesy and no more jungle fighting here. This is regular thing. He wanted me to join the Army Reserve because he had stayed in it 40 years and everything. So I said, I don't want any part of the service because of the things that were going on at that time.
Right.
And then when I decided to got a job, my father says, okay, you got to get a job. So I went out and got a job, and Command Aircraft was hiring right away.
So that's up near Windsor, Bloomfield,
Well,
right?
the one I went to was Command Aircraft was at Musa,
Oh, okay.
because they had a plant there.
Oh, I didn't know
and
that.
we used to put the fixed wings together there. And when they found out that I was a air observer for the Piper Cub, the old one Bird Dog, I told them what they had to do to make that plane better. And so they started mounting guns on the machine guns on the wings. So at least they would have some type of firepower, because a .22 bullet could shoot us out of the air because we were flying low. So I was there for a while, maybe a month. Then I went to the phone company. And then my father wanted me to go into the Army Reserve, and I said, no, I'm not going to do that, because he was still in the reserves. And I went to the phone company, and they were hiring the Vietnam vet. So that was a good thing. And they were giving us money because of the GI Bill and everything. They gave the companies so much money and to train us. So that helped us out, because we were at the low end of the totem pole, and they trained us. And then I went to, it was Mohegan Community College at the time, and I went through the GI Bill, got educated there, and then I got promoted in the phone company as I became a manager, field manager, and stayed there 36 years.
Right. So GI Bill picked up tuition and
Picked up tuition, and also paid for some monies went to my family also, because I got married and I had kids. So I got extra money there because I was working day and going to school at night. So
how many children?
I had 3 daughters.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
And now your brother went off to Alaska, is that right? When you went to Vietnam?
Right. So I went to Vietnam, and he went to Alaska. And then he was assigned to go to Vietnam after I was supposed to be leaving. And they were going to fly him down, and they found out that, wait a minute, you got a brother that's in Vietnam already. Until he's out, you can't go. So he never got a chance to go, which I'm glad.
Yeah, I was going to say that's
yeah, because he was.
But he moved back to this area too.
Yes,
Yeah.
Came back. Matter of fact, here we go again. When I got out of the service, my brother got out almost the same time. It was a couple of days later because he was still in the States, and he got out, and we went to Command Aircraft together. Got a job there. Went to the phone company together and got a job there. So we were together in the phone company. It's the only time we were separated was Vietnam, which was
a great story.
Yeah.
So we've got a beautiful shadow box here with some medals,
it's,
and that maybe you could just, for again the benefit of the the project here today, you can just sort of walk through maybe some of the medals that you.
Okay. Yeah. These are the Vietnam campaign medals right here. The Vietnam medal, and that's the American medal there. Over here is the National Defense. That's another Vietnam combination medal. That there is the Civil Defense Medal. That's my Bronze Star I got when I was there. These are the ribbons. Up here, this is the Special Forces unit that I was in, Airborne Special Forces, and that's an insignia. And the insignia is a The Oppressor Libre, which is in French, which means to free the oppressed. It's a sword with arrows going through it, and you killed silently with the sword or the knife, and then the arrow was silent killing. That's the beret that I wore when I went through school training. That's CIB, which is Combat Infantry Badge. I'm a Master Paratrooper I went to paratrooper school, and then I went to master parachuter school.
So you said you did 5 jumps during boot camp? Is that-
Boot camp was 5 jumps, but I've got 86 jumps.
Wow.
So that's how I got the master parachuter's badge. This is when I went through jump school. That's the helmet and the reserve there, and the parachutes on the back. Went through Ranger School, and then that's the 101st Airborne patch, Screaming Eagles, and that's the E6. I put that there because I was acting E6, and it looks a lot better than the E5. So I use that, but this is the one we got from the state. I believe that medal there. And these here are my expert medals for rifle, M16, M14, then my pistol and rifle, sniper rifle here, and that's expert badge for each of them.
That's great. And these are pictures when you were overseas.
This
Yeah.
was, I was on a LSD, and I have an AK-47 here, which we had captured when I was in the jungle, and that was a better weapon than the M16. The AK-47, you could drop it in the water, in the mud, you pick it up, and you just keep on shooting. The reason why is that the M16, the tolerance in the M16 was, there was no tolerance. It was so tight shooting. It was accurate as hell, but it was lousy and you couldn't drop in the mud or sand or anything.
Yeah.
You had to clean it all the time.
Yeah.
Where the AK-47 was not as accurate, but you don't need accuracy when you're 20 yards away from somebody. You can just spray the heck out of them. And they carried a 30-round clip where we only had 20-round clips. And you could put any round in that AK-47 and it will fire. So it was heavy as hell, though. It was all steel, and the wood stock, where the M16 was a graphite and light metal. So, but it was a good weapon. M16 still was a good sniper rifle. I had a scope on mine, so it was pretty good.
Yeah.
But the AK, and that's where I was here. That's our tents
Yeah.
right there. That was,
No air conditioners.
oh no air conditioning. No. And actually, that was good living. That was
Yeah.
a good living. Usually we were out. I got a picture here. I don't know if you have time.
Okay.
I'll show you the straw hut. Where is it? Oh, here's Lieutenant McGeisert. Here I am here,
Yeah.
coming out of the field.
Yeah.
Here's Lieutenant McGeisert, the Red Beret.
Yeah.
He's got a bottle of champagne. That's how we celebrate every time we come in. Here's the tents where we live in. Oh, here we are. This is where I was. This is a straw hut. This is my little hooch back at the forward area. My M16, if you can see on my helmet, it said Connecticut Yankee on there.
Nice.
So we always put that things on this. So he's a Boston guy. He's
Right.
from Boston. And these are just other things here. AK-40. Oh, this here, when we landed on the beach, this thing blew up. They had booby traps there. This is the old one bird dog that I flew in.
Okay, yeah.
And I'm behind the pilot, and I took a picture of it here, so I could show the hair. I was in the damn thing, you know. Here I am over here with a bush hat. They call Australian bush hat. They called it. That wasn't authorized either, but we wore them. And these are my stripes. These are the girls that we said hello to. And those are my patches.
Yeah.
I want to show you something here. These are the generals when we run. This is how we get land and take off. This is how we took our showers. And here's Lieutenant McGeisert,
Yeah.
showing us hand-to-hand combat, killing points and points here. He was one tough Boston guy from Boston,
Yeah.
Massachusetts. So,
That's great. Well, this has been really just fascinating, and you know, I mean, really incredibly powerful story. I mean, if there's anything you want to share that we haven't covered, you know, we've still got the camera running, but you know, just want to thank you for.
I want to thank you
Wow.
because you've done so much for the
That
veterans.
means a lot to hear you say that.
Well, you mean a lot to us, and I was hoping maybe you run for the senator instead of the congressman.
Right. Well, you know, I'm happy where I am. So anyway, well, thank you so much. I think this is going to be a great addition. to the
Well, I
Library
thank you
of
for
Congress.
having me.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
Thanks.